Hello.
Hello.
How are you, Patrick?
Good.
Thank you. You're doing awesome job.
Thank you. Hope this means I'll pass the test. I just hope that's what all this means. I started the PFA FTF consulting thing today. A bunch of people at work signed up for it. I got the group thing. So, oh my gosh, I'm only on the second video. I'm blown away. Blown away. Like I'm doing this wrong.
Say hi. Clap your hands. Happy and you know, clap your hands.
I really like how this book helps kind of like bring it back together, the concepts.
That's good.
I've had
Almost hair's all messed up in the wind.
Like, where's this and where's that? But I've really enjoyed it. All right. Sorry, guys. I'm OCD. Okay. Wait for a few more people and then we'll get going. Thank y'all for being here tonight. I really do appreciate it, more than y'all realize. It's okay. I don't mind y'all talking. I just get OCD when I. Oh, it's all right. All right. Oh, one person who wanted to be here. I'll message him real fast. Hey, Todd. I'm fixing to send you the link through the messenger just to make sure.
Yep, I got it finally. I got the link. Thanks.
That study group we've been doing, it's been helping my confidence out so much. I'm not a crammer and I'm gonna overdo it, guy, but it's been motivating me to go through stuff and I was really happy with my post score today. I know it wasn't 100, but it was a big improvement from the first time.
That's awesome.
Right. I think I'm gonna go ahead and get rolling because I'm pretty nervous. I probably shouldn't be nervous, but I'm a little nervous. I guess it's the material we're embarking on, kind of getting me a little nervous here. Just in case, I know my audience isn't always big, which is fine, but I always appreciate people coming in and hanging out with me and talking with me and helping me, peel out these concepts. But if you can't be here, we're on Facebook Live in the Rockin' Group, and we're also going to upload it to the YouTube channel. So I understand it's a weeknight, things happen, and we're in different time zones. Last week we started on stimulus control. When we see these SDs, they give us cues. These cues are for reinforcement, for extinction, and for punishment. This week we're going to kind of expand on that, and we're going to look at discrimination, and we're going to talk about stimulus classes, and then we're going to cap it off with the stimulus equivalence discussion. I know I'll have several of y'all probably get quiet, but I think I'm getting better at it. It's the whole A versus A versus B, B versus that kind of stuff. Really helps me out. That's what I usually write down when I'm doing a lot of stimulus equivalent question is, what are they talking about for those relations? But if anybody wants to dive in and help me out that area, you are more than welcome. And once again, I appreciate y'all coming tonight and just hanging out with me. All right, in the beginning of Mayer, he talks about simple discriminations, and he just breaks out with a whole bunch of examples. And I try to get a little creative, and I put several of my own, and I took a little bit of his and had a little fun with it. But nonetheless, here's 3 good examples. The notes are also posted in Rockin' Study Group, my outline of the chapter, and I went really deep on several things as well, which I won't be covering tonight because of how I didn't know I'd be going that deep over a 10-page chapter. But simple discriminations are basically what the word entails: discriminating. Different alarm sounds, an alarm ring versus a telephone ring. I'm sure on our cell phones, if we do have an alarm ring and we do have a telephone ring, most often there's a difference. If you're a little old school, sometimes there's, a traditional telephone ring versus the alarm clock ring. But even when society changes and technology, has made all these advances, there's a discrimination between the rings. The ring I use to wake up and the ring I use to answer a phone. I don't have a ringtone on my phone. I've been on silent since my son's been born, so I use vibrate. Also, when you work at schools, you don't want to have your phone go off. So I have to discriminate between a certain, vibration. Is it the vibration that's for a ring, or is it the vibration for a text message, which happens to be ESPN, Bleacher Report, and all my, other guys too. But there's a difference. There's a different vibration. I discriminate between those vibrations. If there's a long series of vibrations, someone's calling me. And if it's one short vibration, I got a message. We can also look at finding your car in a crowded parking lot. It's a very simple discrimination. You are able to discriminate your car from somebody else's. Unfortunately, there's been some times in my life where I haven't been able to do this. I got in the wrong car. I went to the wrong car. But nonetheless, this is a simple discrimination, finding your car in a crowded parking lot. And then, of course, they had an example about seeing a book for which you need to study. So I put the exam, the big test we're all studying for, versus other books. When we are in study mode, we discriminate. We need this book, or we need this book, or this book is more important. So we discriminate. Basically, simple discriminations are we are simply discriminating one thing from another. This was really cool. I guess it was really just a way to share it. Then he went on, he talked about how recycling bins in a study were used as discriminative stimuli that occasioned proper recycling. They put bins in certain areas that weren't there before. And because they were there before, they became an SD, and they discriminated between trash and recycling, and it strengthened that behavior of recycling. So I thought I'd bring out a fun video, the fun theory, and of how a bottle bank also increased the behavior of recycling because they discriminated. Because of this machine, it made it fun like a game versus just throwing trash away. Just a reason to share it. That's a pretty cool little video, and I know it's different from a traditional recycling bin, but nonetheless, there's stimulus control happening all over the place here. If you stop and think about it, something that machine is signaling for reinforcement, possibly the score. So it's more reinforcing as your score gets higher and you're having a good time. Obviously, they're being reinforced for the behavior. So I see a little bit of the machine itself possibly being an SD for reinforcement. No, I don't want to play it again. All right, simple discrimination. Simple stimulus control is defined as you can present a single discriminative stimulus, one SD, to either evoke or reduce particular behavior. You must also decide which consequence to arrange and when by setting up a simple discrimination contingency. So we present one SD, and then evokes or reduces. Then we have this simple discrimination contingency, which I thought was pretty interesting because when you look into the examples in the book, it really has a great example. It consists of, here's our jargon, it consists of antecedent stimulus, the behavior, and the consequence. Now, for example, when we teach a child appropriate social skills, it's important to discriminate family members from strangers. So let's go with the simple discrimination contingency here. It's important just to be able to identify school teachers from strangers, family members from strangers, colors. I mean, the list can go on and on and on. But hugging relatives is reinforced. I would assume it's reinforced. If you hug a stranger, what typically happens if you're with your parents? Oh no, get back! No, some kind of scolding, some kind of reprimand, something's going on. But you're not reinforced. But if you hug a relative, oh, that was really sweet, or something really loving and comforting. So that simple discrimination contingency, when you're looking at hugging, it's definitely reinforced. And that's pretty much how a lot of what I saw in the book when it comes to discrimination, when we discriminate. When we discriminate for a reinforcer, or we discriminate for something we kind of need, we're reinforced. If I go to my refrigerator and I need milk, for my cereal, I can discriminate between the milk and the orange juice. And I'm going to be reinforced by having the milk to go with my cereal. A lot of times, the correct or the appropriate discrimination is rewarded. What accounts for the acquisition of multiple stimulus discriminations? I'm sorry, a lot is happening on this page, but I didn't want to lose anything here. I want to make sure I had everything. Each of these instances, differential reinforcement has occurred. There's one response that we're going to reinforce, and we're not going to reinforce those other reinforcements. Those other responses. We're only reinforcing in the presence of a specific stimulus. Now, the response must have been established in the person's behavioral repertoire. In other words, we're going to reinforce a response from that one specific stimulus that the learner is able to do. If they can't do it, then I don't know what we're going to be looking for. Just imagine what that looks like. You're gonna reinforce another behavior, but they can't do it. So we're gonna be waiting all day. But if they can do it, and it needs to be in the repertoire. The person must attend to relevant antecedent stimulus. They must attend. They must attend to other stimulus. And we can't discriminate. We can't differential reinforce if they can't attend. The response must have had a sufficient history of reinforcement with regard to the requirement of the three-term contingency. So they've had history. They've had a history with this. So they know what's reinforcing and what's not, like the hug. If I hug the relative, I'm going to get reinforced. If I hug a complete stranger or a crazy guy at Walmart, I'm probably not going to be reinforced. The person's behavior must either produce different reinforcers. In the case of discrimination between two stimuli, or result in no reinforcers, in the case of reinforcement versus extinction versus discrimination. In other words, we're producing reinforcement in one case. Other circumstances, such as different or unattended contextual variables or motivating operations, must not interfere with the response. A lot happening. And I think I got some more happening with this in my outline. I'm not 100% sure, but I'm sure. Identifying obscure SDs. Now, they brought in scatter plot, and that kind of threw me off for a second because I use a lot of scatter plot as a direct assessment. So that's why I threw in the patterns of behavior in there. So here's what Mayer had to say about this. Determining what stimuli may be evoking or reducing behavior is not always easy. For this purpose, one variable, usually time of day, is plotted on the y-axis. And a second variable, usually days, is plotted on the x-axis. Now, groupings of those data points help us identify elusive environmental stimuli. Basically, when I think of those words, that's a very technical way to set up a scatter plot. But those patterns help us identify what stimuli. Is there a certain, I'm going to use education. I'm a teacher. I'm in education. Is there a certain teacher? Is there a certain time of day? Is there a certain activity? Is there the data points are going to tell me something. Now, a sequencing method trying the first one, then combining 2, 3, and so on potential SDs. Now, Howe and Hold also said that developers suggested the method because when a learner is taught a new response, the stimuli that influence the display are often unknown. Once you teach effective SDs, you can take steps to appropriately expand their range or teach client generalization and discrimination SD. Excuse me, sorry for the typo. This is kind of, if I lost you, I hope I didn't, but if I'm, this should kind of bring several of us kind of back on the whole discrimination, because now we're going to kind of use that term and talk about control by complex stimuli, which is basically sorting. It's basically classification in a nutshell, from what I kind of gathered on it. And I could be wrong, but that's why I pulled this example. I'm sorting the shapes, I'm sorting the colors, I'm sorting the items. Many kinds of behavior are controlled by multiple discriminative stimuli, not just one. Consider the ability to sort or classify. Items with an exclusive property are placed in one group, those with another in a different group, and so on. Sounds like stimulus class. Complex stimuli, and we kind of, I'll lead into our next couple of slides, but that does lead to stimulus class. You know, the ones that have the arbitrary features, and the ones that have the same features, and the ones that have the functional features. You know, we're going to sort them and classify them based on their properties they have in common. Acceptable products go in this box and defective ones go in that one. That was Mayer's example. If you were recycling bin, you know, bottles go here, paper goes here, aluminum goes here, or glass bottles go there. We're sorting by their category. The procedures by which we teach such complex discriminations are essentially the same as those for simpler stimuli. Both complex stimuli, it may be more difficult for the teacher to maintain appropriate contingencies. Complex stimulus control is usually involved in what we call comprehension. Pretty neat. Their example was translating a series of foreign phrases. Their definition was it may be assessed by presenting several different instructions and evaluating responses. Comprehension, that's pretty neat. You know, you get these instructions and you have to decipher through that stimuli. I hope I'm not getting too off. I'm trying to really, I spent all weekend trying to break it down to where I can understand, to where I can present it better. I'm not losing anybody yet. Yeah, no problem. All right. I never thought a year ago today I'd be talking this somewhat about stimulus control and discrimination and all that stuff. There are several slides on the control by complex stimuli. I just kind of want to share all of my notes on how this will area it. Now, a marvelous aspect of stimulus control is that it serves as a foundation for all sorts of complex human behavior. Solving problems, understanding concepts, and behaving differently as a function of time, place, or circumstances. It's kind of that Walmart behavior. You know, your kids know how to act at Walmart, but they don't know how to act at home. They know how to act here, but they don't know how to act here. We know when to be serious. We know when to be funny. That's why I think of behaving differently in different places. Indeed, the wide array of behaviors involved in most instances of covert and overt responding. Little trick here, this kind of helped me out recently because for some reason I couldn't get covert and overt figured out. Overt is the behaviors you can see, and covert is also kind of a synonym for secret. So they're coverts, they're secret under the skin behaviors. It really has been helping me out. Hope it helps somebody else. Yeah, exactly. Covert, covered up. The stimulus sets the occasion for reinforcement, punishment, or extinction. Yeah, awesome. Awesome. When I was watching, I started to do the PFA videos today, and I'm really excited. They're pretty cool. Hanley talked about discriminative stimulus, not in depth, but how they're cues. And that really, stuck with me. This SD, this stimulus, it sets the occasion. It gives cues for reinforcement, punishment, or extinction. Probably more or less reinforcement and punishment. We get these cues, I'm going to be reinforced. We get these cues, punishment's on the way. Reinforcers are delivered when the individual assigns a particular label in the presence of those features. Stimulus control functions similarly to the guide, quote, rational thought, as in using covert cues to set the occasion for sequences of self-statements. If I use Google Maps, it will guide me where I need to go, or guide complex sequences of overt responding, as in driving in my car in aversive weather conditions. So when we have all that, so when I think of that little part right there, those are really good examples. You're using Google Maps. There's a lot of complex stimuli going on, but each cue, every SD, every link in that chain, turn here, it's rewarded with going the right way. And then we get our next link. And then we go here, we go here, we go here, we go here. We get several SDs in that Google Map series. Tons of SDs. And of course, reinforcement at the end. Driving a car in aversive weather, there's a lot of stimuli going on, probably for punishment. We have snow going on. Now, if you have kids in the car and it's raining and you're getting older and driving at night's hard, you got a lot of complex stimuli going on. But even that aversive weather conditions, there's a lot of stimuli happening. Some things are hitting punishment, some things are hitting reinforcement. My cognitive abilities have a difficult time functioning now with driving a car in aversive weather conditions. So I'm going to stick with the Google Map idea. I can't handle all that going on. Stimulus control applies to learning behavioral concepts. To identify a positive reinforcer, you must recognize three critical aspects, or three SDs. The presence of the consequence, the contingency that's added, and it results in the response in increasing or maintaining. So we learn through consequences. What contingency is added, and then that result either going to increase our response, it's going to result in increasing or maintaining the response. Concepts are classes of stimuli that fit a particular category. Redness, persuasiveness, elegance, honesty, and so on. So classes of stimuli fit a particular category. And the word for that would be concept. It is a set of critical properties shared perhaps only in part among a number of stimuli that much of the same features that permit one to set up classifications. So concepts share a lot of the same features. And I saw the dog thing at the bottom, so I had to pull another dog thing out for us. The basis for teaching this type of stimulus controls is differential reinforcement. The responses reinforced in the presence of any of a variety of antecedent stimuli possessing the appropriate properties. The response is not reinforced in the presence of stimuli do not contain some appropriate combination of those properties. So like earlier, I'm not reinforced for this, but I'm reinforced for this. So when you're showing pictures of animals to a dog, to a child, and they say dog, and you're gonna reinforce that. If you pull a picture of a dog and you say octopus, you're not gonna reinforce that. So there is different reinforcement going on with complex stimuli. We're in discrimination period. You're reinforced or you're not. This was really cool, and I really thought I'd share it. I haven't been the best pigeon guy or whatever, or able to follow all that stuff going on, and I couldn't put the whole story in there, so I kind of just went on that. Conditional discriminations. Sidman and Talaby, 82, they broke it down for us, and all that happening down there. Given a conditional stimulus, S1, 3-term contingency operates, and I'm going to stop right there because I'm probably going to lose half y'all because of the jargon right there. So we're going to go to the bird example. Okay, we have our bird example. We have a red button and we have a green button. Now, when the green button comes on, the light in the chamber comes on. And the light in the chamber means food. So keep that in mind here. Where our first 3-term contingency, if we press with a red or the green, or whether what conditional, whether Pexon green or red produce food, or if conditional on whether the chamber light is on. So, I'm losing track. I'm getting nervous here. Let me slow down here. All right, before we get that little box, basically the pigeon was presented a green button and a red button. You pecked the green button, he got food. He pecked the red button, he didn't get food. And then we went to the S2. He pecks the red button, he gets food. He pecks the green button, he doesn't get food. But there was one thing that was happening every time he got food. The chamber light came on. So, conditional discrimination was picking the green when the light come on the chamber to receive reinforcement. The pigeon knew that if I peck this and the light comes on, I get food. And that was conditional discrimination. I hope I didn't butcher it. I feel like I did, but it was really a great explanation in the text. I wrote just about every bit of it out in the outline. And it made sense. To me, it really did before I spoke it out loud. All right, then we have matching to sample, which is basically what it says. We're matching things. I love the examples of preschoolers are taught to sort and match based on size, color, and shape. Man, that's so true. I mean, I'm in preschool, and majority of what we do with a lot of our kids are to sort, to match, to identify, to expressive, say what they are, expressive, say what they are, and receptive, be able to identify. And just so much matching, so much happening. I thought that was cool what the book said about your driver's license. We are matching your picture to who you really are. Now, it's supposed to be an actual representation, but we know all how bad our driver's license pictures are. Some matches may be based on identity, as red is matched with red. And then they had some other types of matching to sample. They had simultaneous and delayed match to sample. Basically, with delayed is when the sample item is removed before the choices are present. So if you look at this example of simultaneous match to sample, we're going to present what we're matching, and then we're going to present that first, then we're going to take that away, and then present our choices. And then with simultaneous, we're going to present what we're matching alongside our choices. I think this happens a lot with preschool. Here's our color and which one matches. I see that a lot. This is a square, which one's a square? This one's a circle, which one's a circle? A lot of that definitely in preschool. Then we start talking about stimulus classes in Mayer. So I just brought out my Cooper notes from a previous discussion and just brought out the stimulus class, the different kinds of them. So when you think of formal, now pass a big exam, we're going to call it feature. But feature and formal are the same. They're both AKAs. We're looking at size, color, intensity, spatial position, common topographies, but they're basically categories. They share a lot of the common topographies, common relative relations, and they're developed through stimulus generalization. We got beer. There's a lot of different types of beer, but for the most part, the bottle it's relative to each other. Dogs, yeah, 4 legs and a tail could be a lot of different creatures, but there are different types of dogs. So they have that formal quality, the fur, the legs, the tail, the barking. They share those qualities. Then we have our temporal dimension. When you think of temporal, think of time. Temporal time. So this could be your things that happen in the morning, things that happen in the afternoon, things that happen in the evening. When you're putting a visual schedule together for a client, most of the time you're breaking things down in a temporal dimension. Those things that happen during a school day, those things that happen in the morning at school, those things that happen in the afternoon at school. So when you think of temporal dimension, think of that visual schedule you made for your kids at school. Or was there a visual schedule you made for a client at home? We're brushing teeth. When do we brush teeth? In the morning or in the evening? But we're looking at time. Stimulus changes that exist or occur prior to the behavior of interest, and stimulus change that follows a behavior of interest. Consequences. This was a fun one when we had Ryan with us, and he says at one of his classes they talk about all the different functions two things share in common, and I bet that's pretty cool. I bet that'd be a lot of fun. A computer and a cell phone, they share a lot of the same functions. I mean, if you stop and think about it, your cell phone that you have is a miniature computer that you walk around with. So it's going to share a lot of the same functional qualities as a laptop or a computer. There can be multiple functions of a single stimulus. For example, hearing a buzz may mean you have a text message in your phone, but your laptop battery is running low. There's a different function, but they have that functionality. Okay. Then arbitrary stimulus class. I had a little bit of fun with this in my vignettes in the Rockin' Club a while back when I would, just put different things that would go together. At the Back to the Future time machines, we had the locomotive and the flying car and the original. They don't look the same. The locomotive and the original car, they don't look the same, but they're both time machines. The football and the basketball, they don't look the same. They're not the same thing, but they're sporting equipment. Fruits, a banana and a watermelon, or a banana and a, orange, but they're all fruits. There are stimuli comprising this class of both the same response, but do not share a common feature. Kind of like categories in a way, except categories, they all have a similar look to them. All the dogs were dogs, and now these things are different. All right. This is where I'm going to try to hang on the best that I can in stimulus equivalence. But if you have I'm not saying this to be, I don't know, just if you have a great concept or a great grasp on it, please feel free to jump in. Stimulus equivalence is listed as functional equivalence in Mayer. It's sometimes called that. But I didn't bring in this and then said, I just put all of stimulus equivalence. The stimulus equivalence is described as physically dissimilar stimuli come to be treated as equivalent to or substitutable for one another in certain contexts. when changes in the contingency is controlled by one pair of stimuli are sufficient to change the subject's behavior with respect to the other pairs. A lot happening there. That's just this word city happening. The best thing that kind of helps me out with this is writing it out. It really, really helps me. So I don't want that color. Okay. We have A, we have B, we have C. I'm not gonna get the derived relations and the top relations and all that stuff, but basically just concept wise, this is where I'm gonna go. All right. If the word three occasions the number 3, and the word 3 occasions 3 objects, then the 3 occasions 3 objects, and 3 objects occasion the number 3. And the word 3 and the number 3 and the 3 objects have all become a stimulus class. So, if I did lose anybody, A equals B, and B equals A. If we can have reflexivity, symmetry, and transitivity, then we have stimulus equivalence. And this is where we get it. Oh, that should be a C. What am I doing? Got a little ahead of myself. Okay. Okay. Should be a C. I'm sorry, guys. So here's where it all comes in. A equals A is your reflexivity, is your match to sample. Your A equals B or B equals A is your symmetry. And then your transitivity is C equals A. Because of all that stuff. And the last slide is basically what I try to explain out for us, doing the best that I could. We have to have all 3 of those relations, to have stimulus equivalence. Reflexivity is identity matching. That's when A equals A. And then your symmetry is basically A equals B, B equals A. They're symmetric. And then your transitivity, like I said earlier, is A equals B, C equals A. In our example, the word 3 is equal to the number 3, and 3 items is equal to the number 3. And then we have our little triangle and pyramid and all that good stuff. When you look
Hey, Patrick.
yes.
I was just gonna make an observation that I saw someone, and I don't remember when it was, but they gave a really, really good example of this that you can use at home to like play around with. And they used measuring cups. And so they used like a quarter of a cup and a half of a cup and a third of a cup and a cup. And then they just put them in the actual triangle and just kind of switched them around. And I played around with it, and it made so much sense to me after that. And it was something that you deal with all the time and you can relate to it. And then what I started to do was put little objects in the cups And then I started to relate even further. So I was kind of getting my own transitivity going there.
That's
So
cool.
I don't know if that helps anybody, but it kind of connected for me. And I kind of thought it worked pretty well in this part of it. The other part, I still got a lot to learn, but I thought that was a good example.
It's like an application. You could put what you're trying to do, stimulus equivalent, in the cups. Like put the word 3 in one, put 3 things in one, or
Yes. Yeah.
that's cool. That's
Yeah.
cool.
I thought any way you can get somebody to learn it. But the other thing I learned too is A was taught. And so no matter which way you do it, it's still taught. So those are the two taught relations. So it's a solid arrow. And then A to B and B to A, one way is taught, A to B, but B to A is learned or derived. And so that made that pretty easy for me.
So the learn is what we do when we do the A equals B, B equals A equals C or whatever. The derived would be going back to C. Would that be C equals A?
No, you still can get derived. If I teach you A equals B, you can derive on your own that B equals A. If I don't teach you B equals A, if I
Yeah.
just teach you A and B are the same, you can figure out that B equals A by me having taught you A equals B. So that's
Right.
that's a derived relationship from what I taught you. So you can
Okay.
derive that from the learning.
Yeah, I was doing stimulus equivalence in the BDS modules a while back, and I couldn't get going. And then
Yeah, I physically have to put something down on the table and play around with it, like,
yeah,
like marbles or I don't know, different things. I had to have a visual for it, a literal visual, not a online visual. Because sometimes I see the online visuals and I'm like, okay, so that still doesn't get it.
right.
Especially when we were in one session where we started to get it into quadrilaterals. We started getting into all these different shapes and so
Right.
many other relationships that it got really confusing. So, but yeah, I have to use a physical object, but then it made sense to me. So, but you're doing a great job. I'm excited. I'm learning a lot.
I got these cards for one of my learners, and I had to do that, bust them out. 'Cause I got them on purpose for this concept, to help kids learn, and derive all that stuff. So I'm gonna have to just pull out the cards, because it purposely has a cartoon picture of a fork or the word fork, and it has a real fork, and I'm gonna have to just play around
I
with
think
that.
they do that a lot of times in DTT where they go from the kid learning the picture to now identifying the real object. So like I would teach the kid in DTT when I did preschool, like I would teach them the pictures and then they would get faster and faster with the pictures. And then I would substitute the picture and mix it in with the array. I would mix it in with the real, like if I had a picture of a horse, I would find a little horse in a farm animal set and I would mix it in.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I thought it helped. I thought it helped a lot with the kids. They seem to relate really well.
Yeah, it really does.
Yeah, you just have to make sure seeing pictures in their repertoire before you introduce the 3D animal. So.
Oh yeah, and
Yeah.
it's easier for them to have the real object versus always seeing pictures.
Right. Yeah. No, they get really. What's that? Habituation? Maybe they get really used to seeing the pictures, and it's like, whatever. Even preschoolers too.
Yeah, I totally agree. The best part of this chapter for me, I think, was the discrimination part. It really used so many great examples, and it broke it down to understand the constant discrimination, this versus that, and what makes this chosen over this chosen. And if you really break it down, you get punished for this choice or you're reinforced for that choice. And then it starts to kind of lead to our stimulus classes. We start doing all these sorting and we do all these classifications and all these comprehensions. Then it breaks down to your different sorting, your different, this goes here, and this goes here, which leads right into your stimulus equivalence. This is this, but it's also this, and it's also this. And I really liked how the chapter was mapped out. It really made it a lot of sense for me.
What's the name of the Meyer book you're using?
Behavior Analysis for Lasting Change. It's the latest edition. I couldn't
What is
click.
the latest edition? Do you know?
I think like last year or the year before. It's pretty current.
What does it cost? Do you know?
I
I
don't
mean, I'll look it
know.
up, but I thought you might know.
I'm using my supervisor's copy, and
Oh,
we
yeah,
use this
gotcha.
book for our coursework versus the Cooper. We didn't use the Cooper. I got my
Oh.
own Cooper, and
Wow. Okay.
and she was really adamant on us using this book. And now I'm really kind of seeing why through this
Yeah.
book study.
Oh, thanks, Todd.
Yeah, that's not too bad though. It's not what you pay for the Cooper.
No, I like using a variety of sources. I find that referencing back to ABA for teachers, I've been a teacher for years, so ABA for teachers relates well to for me in a lot of instances. So I go back and look at a lot of examples in that book myself. So I like using a lot of sources like you instead of just one.
I got a book for Christmas called ABA Visualized, and it's made for teachers and parents. I mean, it doesn't go in depth. It's not as great as the ABA Visual Language book that everyone likes. I know I like it a lot.
Yeah, I
But
love
it
that one.
does have pictures with concepts to help map out, explain concepts better for people who aren't ABA. And so that kind of gives you a little, little extra.
I'll look it up. Thank you very much. That's good tips to know. I don't test till April, so I'm just getting started. So I really appreciate all this help, and you guys have just been awesome. And I can't wait. I want to help you, and I want to do one of these things, but give me a week or so. I'm kind of scared right now, but I promise I'll help.
Okay. Okay. Well, I'm gonna go ahead and kind of wrap it up. I appreciate y'all being here tonight. Tomorrow night is the Cooper Club, Cooper, whatever you want to call it, and Todd's actually gonna be our guy for the Cooper. So please join us again, and
Oh, Todd, I'll be there.
it's gonna be good. It's
All
gonna
right,
be
thank
good.
you.
What was that book again?
I'm sorry. Was there a question?
What was that book again? The one.
APA Visualized.
Okay. I'll have to look for that.
Thank you, Patrick. Y'all have a great night. Everybody stay safe. The weather's bad everywhere.
Oh my goodness, it's really humid down here right now. Thank y'all so much, guys. Have a good night, everybody.
Thanks, Patrick.
Have a good night.
Thank you. Good night.